New faces, new debates, every single week.
He's not great. He had 10 good games before you put the title great on him.
It's time for Fight Night with Alex Strouf.
We welcome you back into Fight Night this week, focusing on the topic at hand, which is which National Football League player has the most to prove in 2020. I'm Alex Strouf this week, all the way from Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, by way of Valley Grove, West Virginia. We are joined by my good friend Corey Klug. Corey, thanks for jumping on with me.
Oh, no problem, Alex. Thanks for having me, man.
So your answer this week, Corey, to that question was nothing short of a hot take. You went with the most valuable player, Lamar Jackson. Why is this?
Absolutely. And now, look, I'm not necessarily the biggest hater of Lamar Jackson. Never really have been. I've appreciated his skill set, even back in his days at Louisville. It's just that, and this is kind of something that Drunken Monkey alluded to earlier in the week, it's that, yeah, you can put up all these good stats during the regular season. That's fine and dandy. You can set the world on fire. But when you've been winless in both of your playoff games so far, you still got to show me more, especially now that you're coming off the MVP, now that you got some pretty good weapons around you. You got to step it up. You got to prove it when it matters most in the playoffs.
Yeah, you bring up that playoff note, which is one I found very intriguing in both you and Mike's argument, which you referenced, was that he is 0-2 in the playoffs in his two seasons and his two appearances. So despite the MVP, he still hasn't completely won you over, Corey?
Yeah, for the most part, he has won me over. But if he's going to win me over in terms of being one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, he's got to prove himself in the playoffs. And eventually down the road, he's going to have to prove that he can at least lead the Ravens to a Super Bowl, if not win it.
Right, exactly. Now, you bring that up, and I'm curious, and this is off the top of the noggin, so I'll do it with you, but where does Lamar rank right now for you in terms of those NFL quarterbacks? He's got to be somewhere in that top 5 range, I imagine, right?
I definitely say he's top 10.
Okay.
He's close to being top 5, considering his skill set, like I said. If he can prove himself a little bit more in the playoffs and all that stuff, he'll definitely be a top 5 quarterback. I mean, these first 2 seasons of his career have been very amazing. He's just got to get it done in the playoffs. And if he's able to do that, he's definitely contending for the top 5.
Yeah, year 2 definitely lit the world on fire with the year he had, winning the most valuable player as referenced at the top, and as well as leading the Ravens to one of the best records in all of the National Football League, but couldn't get over that playoff hill when they matched up with Tennessee. Now, the other guy you mentioned happens to play in Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill was kind of your backup choice just because Lamar Jackson had already been brought up. I want to hear that angle as well before we dive into Dak Prescott. Ryan Tannehill, one of the 3 quarterbacks that we've brought up. Bring me into why he has a lot to prove coming off of the AFC Championship run a year ago.
Well, just for starters, if you were to tell me before last season that Ryan Tannehill was going to have the season that he had, I would think that you were just on something. I don't know what, but you were definitely on something, because he had flashes of brilliance in Miami, but he never really did it consistently, especially after signing that big $100 million plus deal that he had in Miami. So he gets traded, expected to be a backup in Tennessee, but eventually takes over the starting role, runs Mariota out of town, and came pretty close to leading them to the Super Bowl. I was thinking for a moment that the Chiefs were going to blow it, and I'm like, how does Tennessee keep doing this? But eventually the Chiefs ended up winning. But Tannehill, very impressive, very worthy of the Comeback Player of the Year award, and now has another big contract that he's really got to back up. Now, it's going to help that he has Derrick Henry to hand the ball off to, because he's really come along these last couple of seasons. It's just that I hope Tannehill's targets do not let him down. The jury's still out on A.J. Brown as to whether or not he can be a dependable target. Corey Davis hasn't exactly panned out like they hoped they would. And Jonnu Smith, the new tight end, hopefully he can be as dependable as Delaney Walker was.
I'd never thought I'd be sitting here and comparing Ryan Tannehill to Dak Prescott, but the situation lies somewhat in the same court, right? You look at the big contract that Ryan Tannehill signed over the offseason. Dak Prescott's looking at potentially becoming the highest paid quarterback in all of football. That's the direction I went coming off of a 4,900-yard season. But Dallas didn't make the playoffs. Dak still has yet to get a playoff win, unlike Ryan Tannehill, obviously in the same boat as Lamar Jackson. When Dak signs this big contract, he absolutely falls into the same category of Ryan Tannehill. But I think there's more urgency behind Dak. Is that fair with the offense that he has? And you know, the win now mentality, it almost seems, that has been instilled in Dallas with the hiring of Mike McCarthy.
And especially since he has better targets
right
surrounding him than Ryan Tannehill does. It's just that with the luck that Tannehill has had in Miami and just coming on the way he did in Tennessee, it's just a matter of can he make it stick, especially now that he has another big contract that he has to play up to.
Yeah,
so that's a big reason why I went Tannehill over Dak.
No, and it totally makes sense. Like I said, I think they fall into a similar court almost. Obviously, their careers a lot different with Tannehill bouncing around a couple locations, but they both are going into a very big, prove it year almost, right? Both of them likely,
especially since both quarterbacks have some of the best offensive lines in the league in front of them, protecting them.
Yeah, that's a great point, with great backs featured as well, as we mentioned, in Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott. So kind of similar situations, which, again, I never thought I'd be comparing Tannehill to Prescott, but here we are, as they both will have big contracts. One more name that's been brought up throughout the week, Corey, that I want to throw at you and dive into a little bit is a really good answer sticking with the quarterback position. Mitch Trubisky in Chicago, they traded for Nick Foles over the offseason. Drunken Monkey Mike Crowley came right at you. He said he's not the starter. He came at, whoever posted Trubisky. So what are your thoughts on Trubisky heading into 2020? Is he even the starter in Chicago in your mind?
This is kind of a 50-50 thing.
I agree.
Because we never really got to see how Nick Foles would do in Jacksonville because he missed a good chunk of the season last year because of his injuries. But the only reason why he's highly talented as he is because he had all that playoff success with the Eagles, leading them to the Super Bowl wins. So if I had to choose right now, I would give a slight edge to Nick Foles at the moment just based off that history. But I still think Trubisky has a chance to be the starter heading into week one for the Bears. He's just got to come out and prove it because he really fell off last season, especially after doing pretty well the season before.
Yeah, his time is clearly running out a little bit faster than everybody else we've brought up. So it'll be interesting to see how that quarterback controversy plays out down south for me in Chicago. Now, last one for you, Corey, before I call this quits for week number 1, season 2 of Fight Night. When you look at Prescott, when you look at Jackson, when you look at Tannehill, I think the easy answer is Jackson. But who do you think has the biggest, I guess, maybe not upgrade, but the biggest season in 2020? Jackson being the easy answer, but let's look at all three guys.
Yeah, definitely Jackson. It's going to take a lot to match the MVP season that he had. But there's no doubt that he can do it with his skill set. If Dak can get the deal done, he's really got to step it up because, as you mentioned in your take, Amari Cooper, you just drafted CeeDee Lamb. You have arguably the best back in the league in Saquon Barkley, good O-line right in front of you. So you definitely got to show out for Big D and end that turmoil that's plagued the Cowboys for about 20 years or so. And then Tannehill was the other one that we brought up, right?
Yep.
For Tannehill, like I said, good security blanket with Derrick Henry in the backfield, but at the same time, second big contract, you got to step it up. I mean, I know you don't have the best targets around you, but the critics are not really going to take that into account because if you tank during the second contract, you're not really going to be able to rebound from that.
Corey says Lamar Jackson and Ryan Tannehill, who matched up in the divisional round a year ago. Both have a lot to prove in the AFC. We'll see if that happens in 2020. My guy, Dak Prescott, I think it's a leave it all on the line year for him, but we will see as sports, fingers crossed, hopefully return soon. That's Corey Klug. Corey, thanks for your time this week and joining me on Fight Night.
No problem, Alex. Thanks so much for having me. Best of luck in everything you got going on. Definitely some big things going for you, man, and stay safe out there.
Fingers crossed. Back at you, man. Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Corey.
No problem, Alex.